we have Titus.
Yeah, my name is Joe Campbell.
I am here with the one and only Jaywalker.
I'm Michi.
Hi there, I'm Andrew. My Bushy Navi title is Mystic.
Here with the one and only Jaywalker. He got top 16 yesterday, and what do you call it? With a deck you don't see too much of, but it always hurts when you do. Hey, how you doing today?
Can't complain, dude. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you for asking. So we're gonna go through the 4 basic questions we've been going through with the entire interviews. One, personally, how did you feel about your performance?
I felt great. I went into it not really expecting much. I've been testing basically all month and didn't feel confident in the deck whatsoever. Made last minute changes probably like 2-3 days prior. Felt good about those and just kind of rocked out with it. Went X1 in Swiss and got 4th place there. Didn't make it past top 32. Got bounced out by Messiah. But end of the day, still had a decent time.
Yeah, for me it was somewhat unfortunate that it turned into a team kill on stream, because you don't chill with them, but both Michi, the Michi player you faced on stream, and I was like conflicted, like, oh bro, I don't know who I gotta go for this match. And what do you call it? That match was just crazy. And what do you call it? The stream kind of stuttered and like lagged out at the end. Can you explain like what happened towards the end?
So funny enough, actually, me and Michi go back from last year. I had met him in Cali, where I ironically topped there last year, nearly to the date. But what happened was when we were playing, I had just checked crit heal, I believe. Yes, I just checked crit heal. He healed right after that, and I swung 2 crit on the rear guard as well. When that happened, he checked OT, and our judge, from pure excitement, tripped over one of the cores and knocked out the stream. So the joke me and Michi came up with in that moment was like, dude, our triggers just killed stream. But it was a great game. Otherwise, it was just like, it was probably my best and my most fun game of the day yesterday.
Hell yeah. So going back to what we were talking about before, in other interviews we were talking about, since our release dates have been different, as well as what sets were legal for between English and Japanese. So like, before we got in Japanese, they got the Stride deck sets before set 5, and what do you got? And so we're in our own pocket meta. So how do you feel about the English competitive ecosystem right now?
It's different, I'll say. Since I'm somebody who tests against Japanese metas most of the time, it's interesting to see what works in English that I know wouldn't work well in Japan. So seeing our meta as so varying, it's a lot more freeing, more or less. You know, thankfully we don't have to deal with those Stride decks. Since we don't have to deal with those just yet, it allows for more variety. Once those come, decks list kind of just lock into one single category.
Gotcha. And so going off of that, if you had to pick, we're gonna make this a 2-parter. If you had to pick one card to take out of the ecosystem, Bushiroad announces next day it's banned, what card would it be? And to expand upon that, if you had to pick out a whole deck saying like, get this deck out of the meta, what would it be?
Issa's out. Issa's out, he's banned. We definitely need that list. If we can get the one of, cool, perfect, absolutely fine with that. Beyond that, if I can take a deck out of the entire meta, I would have to say, honestly, even though it hasn't come out yet, Scrub Odium. Get rid of it.
Okay. And then for our fun little food for thought question, with the current Divines cast, and that means including all of season 1 and season 2, if you had to chill with somebody or just like hang out, who would it be?
It's Masanori. If anybody knows me, and if you don't know me, it's Masanori.
Gotcha. Thank you for coming out. And what do you call? See you around the shop. Coming off of top 32, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Joe Campbell. I played in the Philadelphia Standard event, and I got to 11th in Swiss Cut, and ironically enough, got 11th overall. I piloted Varga for the day. Some say it was a bit of a unique build, but I felt it was pretty comfortable and pretty standard.
Gotcha. So we'll touch on that in a second. But overall, how did you feel about your performance?
I felt great. There was never a game where I felt like anything was out of reach. My only loss in Swiss was because I took a game too long for Shiranui, and the Shiranui deck decked me out because I was getting deeper into my deck with all my draw power and my drive checks while they were not going as quickly through their deck. If I literally was one card more, I could have actually gone undefeated in Swiss, because that would have been, they flat out told me I needed 10k more to kind of win.
All right, and then with that, so do you have anything that makes you think that your deck is, like, people would think your deck is unique? You think it's a standard build in your Varga deck?
So a lot of people were telling me I ran 3 Shenri. That was kind of my draw engine. To me, that slot is occupied typically by mid-hats or Bernayas. I didn't like Bernaya because once Bernaya is out of the game, Bernaya is out of the game because it binds itself. Mid-hat was cool, but it lacked flexibility. Shenri gave me a lot of early game pressure because I could pump out 13k booster columns, so then all game I was hitting with 13k boosters. Other things that people were like, oh, holy shit, was I ran Drag Resonance. Nobody ran that to my knowledge, and a lot of people were not exactly thrilled being on the receiving end of that. But otherwise, I think, personally, I felt it was pretty cookie cutter, but a lot of people felt that grade 1 lineup and the grade 3 lineup with the order package was a bit out of the usual. And I know when I got to Top Cut and walked a few people through because they were asking, they said, damn, that's some spice. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of standard for
Yeah,
me.
what do you call it? I do like Drag Resonance as a tech in Varga. And so speaking of spice, because Japanese release dates and set releases are somewhat different than they are in English. Because, like, example is they got Night Rose and Harry before they got set 5.
Yeah.
While in English we're getting the vice versa, so we're in our own little pocket meta.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, how do you think about the current competitive ecosystem, like in terms of like fairness or fun to play in Standard?
Yeah, I think Standard, I'm actually pretty okay with it. My opinions tend to lie in Premium given how stale it is. But Standard, I think, is actually very balanced. I personally view it as there is no deck that is out of reach. I know my unpopular opinion is sure Shiranui was the best deck for a while, but what a lot of people realize is if you rush Stride decks, it's pretty easy to take care of them because they either have to give up resource or take an inordinate amount of damage that can't push back. But I mean, to each their own. The only thing that I would change is I know that actually a lot of people I was talking to last night after I got out of top 16, and when that happened, a lot of people started asking me about the overtrigger. They said they liked my opinions on things. And to me, I think that's the only thing. But in my opinion, everything has a shtick, right? So the shtick of when Vanguard first came out is you had this Mega Blast. Then the shtick of the next format was, well, we have Limit Break 4. Then we have Limit Break 5. Then we have Break Ride, Legion, G-Era, etc., etc. The overtrigger defines Standard. If you take it out of Standard, you really don't have a format, because everything was based around that. With that being said, I think that the power could get touched a little to be a little more reasonable, but the intent and spirit of it was to change the tides of the battle, and it certainly does that. But what I will say, I don't think there's a best deck. I saw Shoji really fall on its face. Granted, it's making good tops. I would say that Shoji is probably the most consistent deck, but I don't think it's a problematic deck. I think once they fix the ride lines, we're good, and I think when we get Harry and we get Night Rose, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of shuffling. I think the big thing that a lot of people fail to realize is that the Japanese meta tends to be far more aggressive. From what I've heard, and this was historically, I think it still applies these days. I haven't played many matches against people from overseas, but what I will say is, back in the day, they would ditch their whole hand even if it was triggers, just for the sake of making sure you die. Never have I seen Americans do that. Americans tend to be more defensive. How can I guard myself? How can I bounce back? I've seen a lot more of an aggressive thought process. I think Standard's balanced it out a bit because now you don't have to sacrifice ride consistency for deck construction, but I still think that you're going to have variations in the meta, because even you have regional metas when it comes to America. I can't speak on the international scene in terms of how micro metas are made, but I mean, I know every time I go to a Northeast event, I'm going to see an insane amount of red. Narukami always pops up. When anything red was big, it was always here. I know for Premium, you're always going to see bugs, but you're always going to see red in Standard, and that's what it comes down to. So, I mean, I think Standard's a very healthy format. To me, it's the more enjoyable format right now. It's getting active support. No deck is ever out of consideration, because what I will say, my toughest game was against the Barrow Magnus deck that was built yesterday that was meant to take you from 0 to 6 immediately.
Jeez.
So if a deck like that can give you a problem, I would say it's a pretty fair show of we have a fair and balanced meta right now.
Gotcha. So kind of almost expand upon that. This is going to be like a two-parter question. So the first one is, if you had to remove one card from the ecosystem for the health of the format, what would it be? And the continuation of it would be, if you had to take out a whole deck from the ecosystem to benefit the health, what would it be?
For Standard, that's a really good question. And personally, I don't think there's a right answer for either. because what I will say, I think the popular answer would say take whatever's showing up in the fuzzy paradox graphs most of the time and kick it to the curb.
Yeah.
But what I will say is I think that through the past BCS season, we've seen the meta evolve. We went from the pie chart being all of Shojidoji to not really being as dominant in Shojidoji. People have found their outs, people have found their things. One card that concerns me, but I don't think should be removed from the format, is Blangdemir as a whole. I think that the skill is amazing. For people who've been around the game, it's dust. And I get this may not be a great opinion because Blangdemir doesn't top a lot. To me, that deck is on my watch list because it's a few cards away from absolutely shattering the system. Because if you now can figure out a support system that gets you Blangdemir on turn 1, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Blangdemir was inherently built with 8 cards being face down and bind to be a late game option. Right, your second Blangdemir turns the first one. I think that anytime you take nullification into it or lack people's ability to play or stun the game process, I have very strong opinions with that in Premium. In Standard, I don't see that. The closest thing I see is Blangdemir. Now, personally, I don't think there's a deck that needs to get removed. I think that from seeing tops yesterday, there are decks that I am tired of seeing, of course, and there are decks that I'm so tired of seeing that, sure, I'm a red player, but I brought Varga to the table. I did not bring Shiranui, despite the fact that technically Shiranui can be more assertive. I'm tired of seeing that deck. By personal choice, Shiranui would be removed not because of dominance or shoji, not because of dominance, but because of longevity. I think it is very healthy for decks to be there for a while, but when it's these stride decks don't get support. These stride decks get bells and whistles that are generic resources, and that's great, but the deck itself does not evolve. Every other deck that you've seen sit in the system evolves. Magnolia started as Magnolia, moved to Elton. Bruce moved to Bruce, then it moved to Vehemence. Varga moved to Jiva, or not Varga, I'm sorry. Nirvana moved to Jiva. And all these decks evolved and created themselves over time. Zorga went across every format. You know, overall, I can say that I'm not a fan of decks that stagnate to such a point where you can keep a stack of cards. I think for player entry point, that's phenomenal, right? You make a $100, $150 investment, put some bells and whistles for another 100. You put 200 into the game, and you never have to touch it for months. But personally, I'm getting tired of seeing Shiranui. Not saying it's problematic, though.
Gotcha. And for our, even though it's still a thought-provoking question, it's more of a fun question we've been asking. Are you currently up to date with the anime?
I, believe it or not, do not watch the anime. I hear about everything through group chats.
Gotcha. So, do you know roughly what the characters look like?
I know the appearances of characters. I can't tell you who plays what.
Gotcha. So, what do you call it? Let's change this up then. The question was, who would you hang out with if they were in real life? And what do you call it? Now I can just tell you what kind of deck they play, and you'd be like, oh, never mind, it's on site if I see that person.
For me, I think that the one thing I will say from the bits and pieces I've seen of the anime, I don't have a character I identify with, but I do say that I think they've done an excellent job making character development happen. I know in past anime when it was just Kai and Aichi, and that's when I watched, like in the beginning of the game, because I'm like, oh, what am I buying in 2 months? You know, but when I watched that, they didn't really have character development. It was cards with OP skills that never made it to paper. Now there's actually a story, which to me I think is intrigued me enough to go back and watch. But I'm really impressed with what they've done with that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Appreciate you,
yeah, appreciate you. I'll see you around. Coming off of top 16, we have Titus. He's also part of my local crew. And what are you playing today?
Chris Ray, playing Chris Ray.
How did you feel about your performance today?
Out of the water, great. I feel great because I topped with a deck no one thinks is good. It's always trash, always throw it to the side. Top 16 is good for me. I won 8 times technically today, or 9 times. They just messed up the record preparing, but 9 times. I'm good with today.
Gotcha.
Especially against Shoujo, Leonhorn, and Shiranui, and Varga. I'm cool. I at least know my deck can survive in a minute. Or better yet, my girlfriend's deck can survive in a minute. She's the real arbitrator of the deck.
True. Facts. What matchups that you had today stood out to you?
None of them, because they all look the same. Maybe Alden. Maybe Alden, because everyone's playing the same decks. It's Shiranui, Shoujo Doji, Leonhorn. If you're not playing one of those 3, you're playing Alden. Or you're playing a deck that just drops forward and rushes. Like Raziel and Varga. Like you're playing one of them, or maybe even an Aqua Libra. Like my whole thing with this whole format right here in set 4 is that either you're being strategic or you're being brute force. That's my whole thing. I pick a strategic deck instead of one of the top dogs.
And next question would be, I'm going to ask the same question I asked back at Duluth. So considering how we have different lists, especially since we don't have Love and Berry, the Stride deck sets came out before set 5 in Japanese, and the play styles of both English and Japanese players are, I would say, significantly different. How would you feel about the competitive ecosystem in English right now?
So English is full of, how can I say, people that copycat each other and try to do the same thing someone else does with their list, and that is going to be the problem with card games in America. As long as they don't do global release, I think as long as we get global release for Vanguard, the whole game will change. But the main problem is right now, every list is so telegraphed. It's all the same. It's the same 4 cards and everything. That's why I was winning a lot of my Christmas matches. They didn't know how to play the deck. It's just that simple elimination of certain cards in this game, which makes the game really unbalanced.
Gotcha. And so going with the unbalance, this will be a 2-parter question. If you had to pick a card to just flat out remove from the ecosystem / just it's banned, it's not.
Shoujo Doji's grade 1.
Damn.
The grade 1 that says it's my favorite card though. Put this card in the column in the soul, add a grade 2 or greater card from the hand to the soul, from the soul to hand. First of all, that add loose Persona Ride, which makes it infinite Persona Ride as long as you have the combo. But it's definitely infinite because you can't stop them from getting energy. You can't stop them from binding them from their soul. So that has to go. And then Shiranui's 4 Ride has to go to 1, or one of the restanders need to go to 1. Or choice restrict the grade 4 Experidio.
All right, and to expand upon that, if you had to remove a whole ass deck
From
the competitive environment, what deck would you remove?
this gonna sound so asinine coming out of my mouth. As a Shoujo Doji main, remove that deck. Remove that deck. Or at least kill the grade 1. Don't kill the Isasao. Because I think Isasao gives the deck its combo potential, even though it's fair because it costs a counterblast to do what it does. So I would say choice restrict the grade 1 with the new grade 3 and allow them to play the grade 1 with the old grade 3.
Gotcha.
So it forces you, and if you want to still play that way, you got to use 2 CB or to do your thing, or 3 CB a turn, as opposed to using 1 to 0.
Gotcha. All right, thank you took your time out of your day to do it. I'll see you back at the shop. All right, we are coming off of Top 32 in Premium. I don't cover Premium that often on channel, so it's always nice when I get to do it. So first off, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Michi.
And what do you got? What did you play today?
Play Katrina.
And how did you feel about your performance today?
Bro, I was nasty with it. I had 1 game on stream. It was my only loss of the day, which kind of sucked because yesterday I also went on stream and I also lost, so I got cooked twice on stream. And I pinged everyone for it, of course. So like, it is what it is.
Yeah, what do you got? We were in the Discord, and what do you got? I went behind the scenes. I was talking to Fuzzy. I'm like, bro, you can't put this man on stream again. You just
And I told
cannot.
Fuzzy, I was like, I heard I'm not allowed on stream again. He's like, no.
Yeah, what do you call? So, any matchups that you had today? Well, actually, I should say congratulations on doing Top 32. That should have been at the very beginning, bro.
Yeah, no, I did it. So, oh my god, it feels so good.
Yeah. All right, and then what do you call it? So, any matchups that you had today that like really stood out? Was it the last match that you just had?
Yeah. So Katrina versus Katrina is actually like it's really interesting because the person who goes second, Katrina's already a going second list because our history stride is like really, really bad relative to like other history strides. So we get so much more value off of just going straight into Katrina. And once we go into Katrina, we just stabilize so much. Like if we need defensive because we're struggling, 3 PGs to hand, 2 heal guards, and like if we see heal guard in our opening hand, it's whatever. We pitch it, we add it back. Or we already have them in hand. We could go full offensive, 6-7 attacks, do whatever it is. So whoever hits Katrina first in the mirror usually wins. So it's really, really heavy grade 2 game. Probably the only time you'll ever really see a grade 2 game nowadays from what I've noticed. And yeah, so for this one, I mean, it's already hard. I went first, lost the die roll. We both knew what each other were on. And then they were just like on a new list that's kind of like being really tested right now. And it's like super interesting. And I thought of running it. But the difference, they didn't see the tech, but they saw Ride Fixer on boost, CB1, call a plant token, give it 10k. So they were doing 4 attacks while I was doing 3 attacks. They were making a plant every turn while I was not making a plant every turn. And Katrina has a grade 1 where you could retire 2 plants on board, grab it back to hand. So you could just call it, pop over with the token, retire the tokens, you keep recirculating that 10k shield, and it's just insane. But you know, they saw it, I didn't. The only 2 I saw actually hit damage. And aside from that, Gridora, luckily dodged every Gridora. Aside from that, Katrina's the best deck in the room for a reason. Like realistically, like there was Grand Blue, but call a Hanali, it hurts them a lot more than it hurts you. I dodged Shiranui. Correction, I played 1. I went second. He didn't see Crest. And Katrina already cooked Shiranui as it is because, again, we go second. Their history stride makes us discard a card. Yeah. And yeah, I played against an Eradicator. He had defensive OT, so he said OT to pass. I said crit blank OT. So.
All right, and what do you call it? Because I know you and we typically play standard for the most part.
Yeah.
And when we play together, so I gotta ask, how long have you been playing premium?
I've been playing premium almost as long as I've been playing standard. So I started standard in set 7 with Youthberg, but I didn't really care that much about the game. It was only because my friends cared about the game, which is actually what I mentioned when we won BSF.
Yeah.
You're like, how do you feel? I'm like, they got me into the game, so it's really sick that we were able to like win this together.
Yeah, because if you guys are actually long-term subscribers to the channel, you realize when I did my vlog of White Plains, Michi and his teammates were in it because they were the #1 champions. So if you haven't seen that video, it's right up here in the video. Make sure to watch it. And so in your personal opinion, what deck would you get rid of if you wanted to maintain a competitive atmosphere?
I'm really biased because I do really like Katrina, right? I've been looking at this deck for forever, but it's a stupidly disgusting, expensive deck, right? You have a $40 4 of, and it's not going down anytime soon. One of the strikes, the Progenitor is 50, Katrina herself 20, every Cyclone you're talking 10, and then like that's not even including the main deck cards, right? Like the history crits that draw you a card, a rotted, or like new printing's $20, old printing's $12. So like, it's a really expensive deck despite some of it being in the Neo Nectar one. So I want to go Gridora, but at the same time, I also know that Gridora is a quote unquote fake deck from what I've heard, now playing a bit more premium, because it does struggle a lot. The thing that makes Gridora really good is it kills inexperienced players. A good Gridora can beat experienced players, and it just stops Katrina. So if you're stopping the best deck in the room, then it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty bad. Aside from that, I think it's all really good. What I really like about premium and what got me addicted to it in the first place was that I have my bullshit and you have your bullshit. So I can get mad at my bullshit if you're doing your bullshit.
Yeah.
I actually think premium is in a really good place right now. Grand Blue, you got to be good to play Grand Blue, otherwise the deck's not going to do anything for you. Katrina's broken, not going to lie, like it could definitely carry you, but even then you can tell a bad Katrina from a good one. Shiranui, it's relying on crest. You don't see the crest. Deck doesn't exactly fall apart, but it's not doing what it wants to do. So I feel like if you're playing that drawback and you accept that, like if you hit the crest, you could call it luck, you could call it skill. The deck rewards you for it.
Yeah.
I always say that deck choice is definitely a skill, right? Like if you go in with a bad deck, but you're a good pilot, then deck choice doesn't really matter. But Gridora is something that I had a friend on Gridora, he flopped. Our other friend just clapped Gridoras every day. So it's definitely like a knowledge check and a matchup check, but it doesn't feel fun when your bullshit stops me from doing my bullshit. I want to do my bullshit while you do your bullshit, and then we really have fun. Because I'm over here swinging at you 60k with plant tokens, but if I don't kill you, you're on Grand Blue. I'm about to 87 attacks. So I think that's super cool. It's something you don't see in standard. I got OT'd on today. I'm like, oh no, heal guard -2 crit. It completely nullified it.
Yeah.
So it's just, premium's really cool. It's just really expensive. I understand why people don't get into it. The more I play it, the more I realize if you know your deck, you don't really got to know the other decks. Read your cardboard and you'll be fine.
Gotcha. All right, and one last question before we leave off. This one's an easy one. Are you caught up with the anime?
No, and that's for a personal reason that I will not get into.
No. But so do you know the Divine's cast?
The cast, like the actual,
Like cast,
or
characters. The
Oh, yeah,
characters.
yeah, for the most part.
Okay, and you know their personalities for the most part?
Yeah.
If you had to pick one to hang out with IRL, who would it be?
Bro, Akina. Akina or Kuon. I haven't seen the latest episodes of the last season. Kuon's just a dope dude. A lot of people are like, oh, he's bad, he's this and this. Like, I gotta keep it a buck. If you have ambition and you want to follow it, that's hella respectable. Akina's just having fun. That's also really respectable. But what I like about him is like, he's already had his character development. He's already had to grow up. So it's not something we as the audience get to see. So he's actually like a more mature character. You have the other MCs and like they're children playing the card game. This is a responsible adult who didn't get to play the card game, learning how to play the card game and loving the card game.
Yeah.
So he just seems really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't like Raziel as a deck, but if it's good vibes, it's good vibes.
It's good vibes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Take your time out of your day to interview.
Of course.
What do you call it? I will talk to you later, and we'll definitely get some practice matches in.
All
All right. All right, and here is our final interview of the evening. We are coming off a top 32 premium once again. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Andrew. My Bushy Navi title is Mystic.
All right, and what were you playing today?
I was playing Nairos, and not the list you're expecting for Nairos.
Oh, really? Would you like to go into more detail?
Sure, yeah. So, first of all, on my list, I only have 2 G Nairos. You're going to notice a common trend with a lot of these things. They're budget issues. I'm a college student. So I only have 2 G9 roses, so I have 2 V. Fortunately, throughout this game, every time I went first, I got to G9 rose because I have many ways to do it with Greed Shade or Tommy the Ghosty Brothers, stuff like that. So I always got there. I don't have any Largolfs, which would be a really awesome card to have. I just don't. It's way too much. I'm just going to wait up for set 6 and get it. I don't have Rampage Stage, so I just have vanilla heals instead of those. And then beyond that, the biggest difference is I am running 3 draw trigger PGs instead of the Jin PGs that countercharge. Some of the games, looking back, might have saved it, but a lot of the times the draw trigger is very important to me, especially with all the protects in my hand. That's fodder for them.
Gotcha. And overall, how would you feel about your performance today?
I came in here planning to do 3 rounds of premium, then drop and do the standard side events today. Then I went X1 in Swiss. Somehow I won every single round up until round 5. Then I won the last 2. And funny enough, the person I lost to in round 5, a Crest Shiranui player, I fought him first round in top 32, which was my undoing. I know my misplays I made that would have turned the games around. It's unfortunate that I can't go back and fix them, but it is what it is. I'm happy with my results.
Nice. Before I get some clarification on one thing, I just want to ask, since you and I go to the same shop and we play standard for the most part as fellow Leanorn bros, how long have you been actually playing premium?
So I started playing Vanguard at the beginning of G era. I've been playing for about 9 years or so now. Then V era started. I didn't really touch premium besides some really jank Gear Chronicle stuff. Then standard was kind of the same story of just not touching premium. Then started this year at Springfest in White Plains, New York. My friends and I bought the Nairos and Harry Battle deck sets, and I was playing with that because I really like Grand Blue's aesthetic, the play style, all that stuff, and I loved it a whole lot. And I just kept upgrading it slowly with cards I needed to make it, a meta threat. And ever since Springfest this year, I've been playing a whole bunch of premium with you guys.
All right. So there's one thing I kind of need to get clarification because I had to run to do my event, but there was 2 judge calls at your table. I believe it was the second to last round, and it was the last round. So let me explain this for the audience at home. So this was my understanding. What was the deck that you're playing against in the last round?
Highlander.
So it was Highlander, and one of our mutuals, they came to me and said, Ed, I think you need to go get a judge. They flipped the red OT in Highlander, but when they got the judge and the judge came back to be like it was a legal play, they referenced the OT being a Stoicheia OT. That threw a red flag in my mind because as last time I checked, Bermuda got absorbed into Lyrical Monasterio, meaning you can only use Cray Elemental over triggers and Lyrical Monasterio over triggers and Cray Elemental over triggers. And I believe it might have just been a thing of the person didn't know you can resolve. Like when you resolve an OT traditionally, it's you have the main skill to give 100 million power and then draw a card. And then if it's for offensive, do the additional effect, you could choose how those 2 resolve. So do you know anything about what kind of happened there? That there was 2, because there's a judge and a head judge at your table.
Oh, there was a head judge? I didn't know there was a judge. So you're right and wrong. The judge did come over. That's entirely my misplay. I forgot how Honolly worked. And no one has the new errata one, so reading it was not very clarifying for me. And I accidentally drew a card off of... I was already at 5 attacks, so I had to CB to do them, and I had no face-up CB at that time. Attacked with Stormrite Ghost Ship, do retire, draw, go through the motions. Then I realized, wait, I can't do this attack. He calls a judge because I saw the top card of the deck. It was a Beatrice. So the judge comes over. We resolve it. Fortunately, they just had me shove my deck. They put me on. They gave me a warning and all that stuff. Game didn't change from that much, fortunately. They did flip a red OT at some point. Not really sure what you're talking about at that part.
Because someone said they drew 2 cards and gave 100 million power and the restand skill, I think they said.
Oh. If that did happen, I must have missed it because I was still very panicked because time had been called at that time. We got a 3 to 5 minute extension. He had 2 cards in his deck. I had a couple more. This was going to whoever was gonna win and make top cut. And I made top cut, obviously. So it was very stressful. The judge did come over and all that stuff, but there was no rulings on that. I think he played the red OT correctly as he did.
Okay.
I fortunately today I've realized I'm really happy Grand Blue's a protect deck.
Yeah.
I got to PG so many attacks today.
Hell yeah. And so with your time playing premium, how would you describe the ecosystem of what you were facing going up today?
Well, so I'm playing Grand Blue. Granblue's worst matchups, I'd say, are Narukami because it disrupts your board. So I'm running like Ghoul Dragon and Bell just to counteract that. And Mega Colony because Mega Colony just screws us all over.
Yeah.
And after that, I would say Crush Shiranui because of their attacks and stuff does really good against the Protect decks. I fought 3 Crest Nuis in Swiss, then a repeat of the Crest Nui in top 32. I didn't fight a single Narukami or Mega Colony, but I did see there was a couple Mega Colonies in Top Cut near me. So I'm gonna have to wait to see like the pie chart for this one because I feel like it was really nice. Like I saw a Regalia person is still in. They're in top 16 right now. They're fighting, and I see some other things like there's not like an overabundance of Katrinas abusing Cyclone or anything. There's not an abundance of like, well, there might be abundance of like Shiranuis, but like I barely saw any Narukamis like at tables and stuff. And there was some other things like I walked by one table, someone was playing Chrono Fang. And they were having a good time. So like that's something I realized today. Everyone who plays Premium loves Vanguard, and especially Premium. Like you get to do so much. It's so complex. Like you can feel like I made this misplay. This would have costed me the game or something else. It's just really fun format. I like it. I wish we'd get more support and all that stuff, but I'd say as of right now, I'm happy.
Hell yeah. Since I know you're relatively new to the Premium, like I know you said you touched it here and there, since you're like the person I know who's like the freshest in the Premium, how would you describe people who want to get into the format? How would you describe them to do it?
I'd say I literally just gave you my explanation. I got the Harry and Night Road Stride deck sets. That's a perfect way to start, especially since you can just battle with your one friend. It takes a decent amount to upgrade. There's like, you can upgrade to like where I'm at, which is not super much. Then like full meta, what most people are playing, that'll take a pretty penny and stuff like that. But yeah, something to just play with your friends, and not to mention the, it is a shame they don't come with the Harmonics and the Guardian Shields or Elementar, but that's fine. And then the new, I think just Premium Battle deck sets, Revengers, Musketeers, Jewel Knights. Those are also great ways. Everyone I played at the shop, besides like On and Michi, they are playing like Revengers, Musketeers, Jewel Knights. So I get experience against them, and they get a like nice entryway to Premium, especially since you get OT, Elementara, and Harmonics.
All right. And if you had to remove one deck that you wanted to fight, I think I could kind of guess what the deck is, but if you had to remove one deck that you never have to see again in Premium, what would it be?
Objectively, I should still say Narukami or Mega Colony.
Any deck in particular, since it's a whole plan?
That is fair, but I'm gonna rule out Narukami because I do like Narukami and Gauntlet Buster. I'm just not a fan of the Premium playstyle right now. Mega Colony is kind of dumb, and I obviously have a big vendetta against Shiranui today.
Yeah.
I think I am gonna go though with Mega Colony Ghidorah, just because it limits what you can do, and the best part about Premium is you get to do so much crazy stuff every turn.
All right, and one last question before we leave it off. This one's an easy one. I know you're definitely caught up with the Divine's Enemy. If you had to pick one character, either a Fated one or a Destined one, not the units, but of the people who are on Earth, who would you hang out with and why?
From Divines?
From Divine, if you feel very strongly about an older season of Vanguard, feel free.
Oh hell no, I'd love to hang out with Chrono Shindo. I'm a G fanboy. But if I had to go with someone from Divines, honestly, I'd say Now or Akina. They seem like fun people to chill with.
Hell yeah. Thank you for taking time out of your day to interview. What do you call it? I'll definitely see you back at the shop, but you're going to have to teach me a few things.
I promise I will.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. It helps out the channel tremendously, and it lets me do more stuff like this, and especially lets me know that you guys like this stuff. So once again, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys next time. Are you still going?